Hi everyone, this week I'm going to show you some very handy keyboard shortcuts within Lightroom that can speed up your editing workflow. Right, so we've just jumped across into Lightroom here, and this is a photo of a Ferrari 355 that I took at a recent show. You can see that I've edited this photo. If you want to try and copy settings over onto another photo, this is an unedited photo for example, what we'll do is keyboard shortcut, it's Command and C or Control and C on a Windows PC, and you'll see it says copied editing settings at the bottom. We go across onto our photo and Command V, and it will paste those settings across onto this photo. So there's a few things to note when doing this. If you have masked a specific area, so if we go back to the first photo, what you'll notice is the number plate is a lot less saturated and the background is darker. So I've masked that and the background in this photo. They aren't copied across onto the new photo, so the number plate is quite saturated and the background isn't as dark. If you want to copy mask across, you go to your original photo and you actually go to the side menu and choose edit settings to copy here, and you can select masks there and it will copy the masks across. Just be aware that when you do this, if the photo isn't exactly the same, if it's not zoomed in, the mask will be in the wrong place and you just have to adjust the mask into the correct place. Tip number 2 on today's video is when we want to crop the image. So this image, for example, within Lightroom is a 3x2 as taken from the back of the camera. So for Instagram, we like a 16x9. So the keyboard shortcut, if you press C, it goes to the crop menu. So how we've got the picture in landscape here, if we press X, we can actually change the justification of the crop. So as you can see, it's gone to a portrait mode. If I press X again, it jumps back to a landscape mode. So all I do is I just go over here and go to 16x9, and then we just work on our rule of thirds, just placing the car correctly within the image. Another thing to do, when you're in the crop menu and we have our image, if we press C again and we go back to the crop menu, and when we have our image, you can just see that the car is very slightly slanting. So when you're in the crop menu, if you press Command or Control on a Windows laptop, what you'll see is a little ruler icon has now appeared with a cross next to it. This is an incredibly handy tool for everyone out there, so listen up. This is brilliant for landscapes, car photos, anything you want to straighten. It's very difficult sometimes to get straight images when you're out in the field and taking things. So if you know you've got something very straight within your photo, such as the horizon or the rear wing on the back of this car, if you hold down Command or Control on a Windows PC and we draw a line while still holding that button down between 2 points, what you'll see is the picture will correct itself when you let everything go. So now we have a cropped, straightened picture. So keyboard shortcut number 3 within Lightroom, it's two in one really. When we've got our finished edited image, if you want to view it in the biggest resolution possible, we will press the F key and it goes to full screen. Here we have it. And your backspace key, if you press the backspace key, it will show the original image. So you can cycle back between your original image and your edit. And you can just see to what length you've gone to, whether it's too much or too little, and certain areas that you might need to change from the original image that you've not really noticed on your full edit. So that's shortcut number 3. I hope that one helps. Shortcut tip number 4 is how to bring up the mask menu. So a lot of the time I use masking tools a lot within Lightroom. If we just press M on our keyboard, we'll find that you can see the masking menu has popped out the side. So objects, brush, linear and radial have all got their own keyboard shortcut there. So we could do a radial gradient, for example, and draw a big radial mask, turn the exposure of the car right down or right up. With me using masks so often, I use this keyboard shortcut quite a lot, jumping between different menus. So a lot of the time I'll be using a background. So we just usually drop the background exposure. It just makes cars and things pop out better. But that is it's a very well used keyboard shortcut of mine. So tip number 5, when we are in the crop module, when we've got the rule of thirds screen on, if your composition isn't quite working for you how you would normally sort of do it within the rule of thirds, if you go to the O key on your keyboard, you can actually cycle different overlays. So we have a diagonals, the center one where it's split into 4 grids if you're looking for that sort of split, a triangle, the golden ratio with the center a bit smaller there, the golden spiral depending on if you were looking down a staircase or something, for example, or depending on where you want to put the focal point of your image. We've got different aspect ratios, so we've got 2:3, 5:7, so you can just see how it's going to crop in and out on your photo. Or more of a grid pattern, depending on, you might have a lot of subjects within your photo that you want to get in certain areas. And then back to the third one. So tip number 6, and one of my personal favourites, is when you are editing an image, if you decide that you want to change the exposure, for example, and say we had the exposure somewhere up here, and we wanted to bring the exposure back down, we were happy with this, for example, to start with, and we thought, oh, we'll just bring the exposure back down, but you can't remember this exact figure. Say we correct the exposure, bring the exposure down, and you think, actually, I'm not happy with that. A very quick way of getting back to your previous setting without going through all the menus and messing around is if you press Command or Control on a Windows PC and press Z, it will take you back to your previous setting. So this is something that I use constantly when I'm editing photos. So if you press it again, it'll take you back. So you can make numerous changes. So we can increase the exposure, change the contrast, bring down the highlights, bring down the shadows, just playing around, for example, like that. And we've gone a little bit too far with all those edits, but if we want to get back to our original one, if we press Command and Z and you keep pressing it, as you'll see, they'll all go back and we end up back with our original image. So this is something that you use constantly when you're editing, and it's the quickest way of getting back to your previous setting. Right guys, the final tip for today is when you are in your detailed view here, where the image appears quite large, if you shortcut E, it will bring your edit module in and out on the side. But also, if we get rid of the edit module and we press G, it goes to our grid view. When we are looking at all our job as an overview, or our whatever we've photographed as an overview, you see it as a grid. We can select a photo there, press D, and it will go into the detailed view, press E, and our edit module comes in and out. So I hope these tips have been really good for you, and I hope it really speeds up your workflow. Subscribe to this channel, it'd be great if you could, and there's a lot more to come in future, so stay tuned. See you next week.